Suntem la ediția cu numărul 3 a conferinței I Love My Job, așa cum știți și voi, o conferință sprijinită de cei de la Bosch, cei de la Genpact și cei de la Well Code. Le mulțumim foarte mult pentru întregul sprijin acordat. Noi continuăm cu următorul invitat, care vine de foarte departe. Charles Ratto este un cercetător de succes cu experiență de peste 10 ani în analiza conflictelor, peace building și recuperare post-belică. Cu o experiență vastă pe teren în regiuni de conflict și post-conflict, Charles a lucrat cu precădere în situații care implică grupări rebele și militante, copii soldat, victime ale războiului și ale traficului de persoane. A negociat și a asigurat eliberarea a 51 de copii răpiți în zone de conflict extrem. Charles, el însuși un fost copil soldat, a pregătit până acum peste 2000 de foști copii soldat în domeniile construirii păcii și securității durabile. În 2012 a înființat Centrul pentru Pace și Prevenirea Violenței, o organizație dedicată culturii păcii și respectării demnității umane. În 2014 a primit premiul Eroul Anului de la agenția de presă Think Outside the Box România. În 2018 a obținut premiul Global Peace Ambassador prezentat de Centrul pentru Studii pentru Pace Sri Lanka. Charles rămâne o inspirație pentru generația sa, ținând discursuri pe 4 continente și atrăgând atenția asupra nedreptății făcute împotriva femeilor și copiilor din regiunile aflate în situații de conflict. Pentru prima dată pe scena I Love My Job Conference, prezentarea lui Charles Ratto va avea loc în limba engleză. I would like to welcome on I Love My Job conference stage Charles Ratto, President and Founder of Center for Peace and Violence Prevention. Welcome to Cluj.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here to share with you for the next few minutes. I will be talking to you about the attitudes that make a difference. Every decision we take in life, every situation we find ourselves in, we can change based on our attitude, or we can remain within those situations based on the way we perceive them. When I first came to this country, and even up to now, a lot of people always walk up to me and ask me, why did you come to Romania? And I thought that was a fair question because people wanted to know why I came here. And I always used to tell them why I came here. And then as people kept asking me, and I started to ask myself, it seems everybody in this country are security officers. This is a private question. They really want to know. Over time, I realized that it's two things. Either one, they want to really know why I came here, and two, these people don't seem to believe in themselves. Now, before people like us come here to study, we may have already checked a lot of information about this country, and that's something I did. I checked about the level of education, I checked about the religion, I checked about many things, and it suited me, and that's why I convinced my family to come here. But then when I came here over time, I realized that most of the people here tend really not to believe in themselves, rather do they even believe in their nations. And so I started to go through this, and partially, the text changes of my presentation. The text changes. Ooh. Could we have the PDF version? Thank you. So today I'll be talking about how our attitudes can impact our lives very greatly. It's very important that you take this seriously. You could be in a situation, in a relationship, or in an emotional state, thinking that this is the end of the world for you, but it's not, because you are stronger than what you think you are. All you have to do is a little bit of a change in attitude. The texts change by themselves, I don't know, whatever happened. I can even barely read them. But no one can excel beyond, good. I need it for them. So one of the things we have to realize is that attitude is a product of belief. What you believe about yourself is what you're going to project to others. So until you really look into yourself and truly talk to yourself, your impact within your own life is going to be very limited, and your impact on your nation or your generation is going to be very limited, because you failed, first of all, to believe in yourself. What you think of yourself is what other people think about you. what other people tell you, what other people think they believe you are, and probably you tend to hold that to yourself and believe that, and that can have an impact on your decision. Practically speaking, the difference between the guy you would consider to be not so attractive and the guy who is attractive, both of them going towards the same girl. The guy who is not so attractive might have an attitude that is positive, believing in himself, and the guy who is very attractive, from our point of view, may lack the self-confidence, and his attitude puts him down, and the one who is not too good-looking in our eyes is able to marry a good wife, or beautiful girlfriend. It's a difference in attitude. Now you have to understand, the secret for anyone to rise to the top lies within their belief system. Sorry, I got a bunch of papers. Now you have to realize also that there's a reason why you were born. Each of us have a reason in life why we were born. We are not just born by a mistake. We are designed for a purpose. We are designed to solve a problem. We are designed to give a solution to a problem. But we first of all have to identify that problem. And that is the most difficult one, identifying your purpose in life. Don't do every other thing because someone else is doing that. Identify yourself. What is unique about you? What is it you want to do? What changes you want to make? Where are the areas you want to excel in life? You have to ask yourself those tough questions. And when you identify them, you start to ask yourself, what is it I need to get where I want to get to? It is not going to happen overnight. It is not going to happen without hard work. It is not going to happen with the same mentality. You have to change your mentality if you want to have a desired result. So I'll keep these here. I'll do it one by one. So, oh, we got it back. Okay, you know what? It's giving us attitude, so it's okay. Think about a lion. I'll give you another example. The lion is not the strongest animal in the world. It is not the tallest. It is not the biggest. It is not the most intelligent. But the difference is in the attitude of a lion. When the lion sees an elephant, they think about breakfast or dinner. It's going for it. It doesn't sit there and think, this elephant is bigger than me, or this tiger is stronger than me. The difference is within an attitude of a lion. And this is why we tend to consider the lion to be the king of the jungle. But in reality, they are stronger animals than the lion. The ants carry something 3 times heavier than its weight. The elephant is a giant, but it can be bullied by a lion. The difference is the attitude. I see Romanians as one of the most intelligent people in the world, and I've spoken in 4 continents around the world, and I'm not trying to flatter you. But I also see that sometimes you really look down on yourselves. You tend to believe sometimes that you got nothing that the rest of the world has, or probably the rest of the developed world has. And such mindsets sometimes try to bring some people within this nation down. A great nation is built by its people. You are the nation. Romania is just a name. If you give up on it, what do you think I'm going to do with it? Or people like me who came here for different purposes. You are the nation. You can make it great, or you can make it weaker. It's all up to you. The mindset about how you perceive life has to change. UNICEF estimates 300,000 people around the world, young people around the world, are involved in armed groups. Either they are captured by force to fight, or either they join the groups because of some other reasons. Child Soldier International estimates that that number has gone up to 159%. But even at that, all of those figures are very small. That is because a child who is captured to fight war today could die the same day, and nobody has time to calculate or to give an estimate. Our entire battalion can be dismantled in a few hours, and the UN isn't there to calculate. So there are a lot of people dying in these wars that we don't have the statistics for them. I have had the privilege to work with many young people in these kind of situations. And I've seen most of them putting away their past, putting behind their struggles, and moving on to universities, moving on to primary schools, moving on to moving on to businesses and skills and other things to develop and to improve themselves. Oftentimes, we tend to think perhaps we're too old or we're too weak or we're not so intelligent, so we don't want to push forward. You don't need all of those things. You don't need all of those things. What you need is a change of your mindset. Believe in yourself that you can do it. I was raised in a country where there was war. From the time I was 8 years old till when I became a youth, all I knew was war. And so when I had the opportunity, when I was adopted by a family and I had the opportunity to go to school, I was the oldest in my class. I was 22 years old when I had to go back to school. Clearly, I was the oldest in my class. But I never allowed what my classmates said to put me down. I never allowed what my friends said to put me down. Oftentimes, some people, there were two persons, myself and another guy in the class, they used to call the father of the class, and we liked it. But today, most of my friends, or most of my colleagues back then, just got a bachelor's degree, and that is it. There is a huge difference. I kept pushing myself, and I said, nothing can stop me. Unless somebody has two heads, then maybe I'll be afraid to get to the limit where they want to get to in terms of having an education. I never allow it to pull me down. So you have to think about these things from the point of view of what is the difference between my sister and I? What is the difference between my brother and I? They have their calling, or my colleague, or my friend, or my boyfriend. Your boyfriend, your husband, your wife, they have their calling. There is a reason why they are made. Once they identify that purpose, don't pull them down. Identify yours. Separate love from reality. Don't push somebody to go for coffee simply because you feel like the person is your husband or your wife when the person have to follow their calling. Don't bring them down. Support them. Push them forward. And vice versa. Let the person also support you. What happens tomorrow if the person isn't there? What are you going to do? Now, when I was a child, many years back, I was captured by my tribe members. It doesn't usually happen. People don't usually capture children from their tribe. In my case, I was captured by members of my tribe. And I'll just keep it there. And I had to fight a war that I had no business in, not whatsoever. But I never let that pull me down. There were times after we ran from the war, there were times that we used to sleep in the grave, few friends and I, just to make sure that we don't go back to the battlefield. But today, when I look back on those days, I'm happy that those things happened to me, despite the horrors, because it set me on my path. It helped me to identify my path. Probably if I did not go through those experiences, I could not have been doing what I'm doing now. So look into the good. Look for the good into every situation you find yourself, whether it's a good situation or a bad situation, especially the bad ones, look for the good in it. It happened for a reason. Don't just give up. Don't just turn your back because something bad happened to you. If you give up, you're not giving up on anyone. You're giving up on yourself. And that is something you have to remember. Now, it's the same thing I kept saying on the next slide. When you change, you can change your life by changing your attitude. If your attitude remains consistent, just the same. Imagine you sleeping all day and someone else going to work, for example, or you're playing football or basketball. Your friends are going for training and you're just resting because you believe in your ability. You believe that you can do great when you get on the pitch to play. Your friends are increasing their endurance level. They are improving themselves. They are developing themselves. But you are just on the same level because you think perhaps you have a great relationship with the coach or a great relationship with your boss. Now, change your attitude for the good. Now, do not give less and expect more. This conference is about business. Business is not just about selling things. Business is about selling yourself to the world. If you have 2 t-shirts, One have a Nike sign on it, and the other is plain. Which would be the most expensive one? Oftentimes, the Nike one. And that's because these products has improved their brand. They have reached out to a vast majority of people around the world. High quality brand. So sometimes, even if it's not good enough, if it's produced with a substandard material from whichever country, we tend to be attracted to that just because of the brand on it. Now, I stated earlier, don't give less and expect more. You might go to work late and expect your boss to promote you a year or two after. Or you might go to work, if you work from 9 in the morning to 5 in the evening, and you do that for 1 year or 2 years, you expect your boss to promote you. What you have done, actually, is what is required within the scheme of the work. So you haven't done anything extra. You just did what you're paid to do. But if your work starts at 9 o'clock and you're there at 8:30, and you leave maybe at 5:30, you've done something extra. You put in extra time. So your attitude towards your needs and your desires should be proportional to what you expect from others. You can't, for no reason, have a sense of ownership to something you haven't worked hard for. You can expect to have good grades in school if you didn't study hard. Or maybe you have a great brain to remember things, but that also requires some extra energy, hard work to remember those things you read. As I get closer to my presentation, I got a few more slides left. Now, think like a customer as an employee. As an employee, you have a unique advantage. You are much closer to the customers than your boss. You deal with the customer on a daily basis. And this is a simple example here. As you move around, there is a slim chance that you're going to meet any of the CEOs here. You have their representatives here. And most of us are here to search for a job. So you're much closer to the customer than your boss. And you have to think about it from the point of view of a customer. The customer oftentimes do not care if you have eaten, if you're angry, if you're sick. They just want to buy something from you. Sometimes, some customers may have been having a bad day, and all they need from you is a smile or a greeting. Now, if you sit in the shop and act as if you are so angry, and someone tell you, good morning, good afternoon, and you just keep the same face, and you expect that person to come back to the shop next time, it's going to be very difficult. I'll give you an example. There is a shop I like to go and buy things from. There's an old man there. The only reason I go to that shop every day is because when I say hello to him, he says hello back. When I'm going, I'm rushing out, I say goodbye, he tells me goodbye. Now, he speaks English. I speak English, he speaks Romanian. But I perfectly understand what he's telling me, and he perfectly understands I'm greeting him. And I belong to a community. I belong to the African community. And so every time I'm talking to my brothers and sisters, oh, go to that shop. That guy is good. He's greeting you always. The reason is because I'm raised in a society where greetings is very important. So just by telling someone hello, good morning, good afternoon, or just smiling to that person can make a huge difference. Probably you may be the only person who smiled for the person or to the person that day. You may be the only person who asks the person, how are you today? And that makes a huge impact. Why? Because there is a good chance that even in the house he slept, nobody asked him, how are you? And so you need to give more. You cannot give less and expect more. And I mentioned before that you are in a unique position than your CEO and your manager and your supervisor, because the things you observe from the customers, you can confidently make those recommendations to your boss. The boss wouldn't be able to do that. Maybe before he got to a level of being a boss, he or she has some ideas, but time has passed. So you have to add value and look for ways to improve your business. Also, never stop learning. There is always an opportunity to learn. Never stop learning. It's absolutely important that you never stop learning. Successful people never stop learning. Once they complete a task, they ask themselves, what is next? How can I improve myself? Where did I make mistakes? And how can I improve? What can I learn from this past experience I just had? What can I learn from this contract? How can I move forward? Successful people don't stop one place once they succeed in something. They keep going on, keep improving themselves. Again, I want to apologize to you sincerely for the PowerPoint technical issues, but I'm going to end my presentation here and take one or two questions if you wish to ask.
Din nou, dacă sunt întrebări în public, mâna sus și vin eu către voi cu microfonul dacă sunt curiozități. Dacă nu, tirul întrebărilor începe la mine ca de obicei. Okay, Charles. You mentioned the fact that every people is the same. In the fact that we are all people. Some of us are better doing stuff. Others are less prepared in doing stuff. But in terms of a nation, a people, you mentioned that we are all the same. We're just people, like Romanians, Germans, Africans, Americans. We're just people. And you also mentioned that you sensed here the fact that we think less of ourselves in comparison to other to people from other nations, for instance. But we also have. I also felt that we have a way of thinking of ourselves better than people from, for instance, Eastern nations, like people from Moldova, for instance, or people from Ukraine, or people from coming from Asian countries. Is that something you see or you've seen in Romania too?
Yes, thanks for raising that part of it. I kind of skipped it, but always, oftentimes, if you get two questions from a Romanian, at least from my point of view, I may be wrong. And again, basically, I'm speaking in general terms here. This is the big nation with a lot of people, so 20 to 21, 80 million, somewhere between there, depending on the movement of people. But it's a vast nation, so I'm just speaking in general terms and based on my personal experience. So usually I get two questions, and the first one is, where are you from? And that question kind of relates to what you're saying. It's in sometimes sort of asking to know genuinely where you're from, or sometimes to know how to relate to you. Now, I've seen when I tell people I'm from Liberia, for instance, they have a very different way of relating to me if they don't know about my background altogether. And if I was standing with an American or a French, it doesn't matter his skin color or religion. If you say he's from France or the United States, there is a big difference. And also in Romania, if I'm being introduced by a Romanian to another Romanian, someone who is from Moldova, for instance, I have had this experience many times where someone would say, oh, he or she is from Moldova, they're from the poorer side of the country. And you just put down your fellow human being just like that, just because you think you are from, I don't know, Cluj, and it's kind of much better off than where they're from. Be humble. Be humble to your colleagues, be respectful to them, not just to your boss, to even people who clean the floors, because they get to work earlier than you. They are very important. Imagine us leaving this place just like this without cleaning it up for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, or leaving the streets like that without cleaning it. Cluj is clean, is dragging the tensions from all around the world in Europe because you got people working hard to keep it neat and clean. You are no important than those people. And so it's honest goes your question. I've observed that also, but again, it's just human nature. It's how we think of things, and I'm sure where I'm from also there are people with such mentality as well. I mean no disrespect to limit this to people here, but these are some of the experiences that I had, and I decided to direct my talk along this line. It doesn't matter the nationality of the person, because we don't choose where to be born. When you were born, it's a human being who's going to give your first bath to you. When you die, Your last bath is going to be given to you by a human being. You're going to be taken to your grave by a human being. So why all this proud attitude? You don't need it.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Anyone else? One more thing you mentioned about us Romanian. You said that, and I'm quoting for memory, so please allow me to. You said that you felt that Romanians are a smart people, very smart people in comparison to, generally speaking, other nations that you encountered or you interacted with. How did you come to that conclusion? On what did you base your conclusion?
That's a good question. That's a fair question. First of all, very practically speaking, how many of you here speaks 2 languages? How many of you speak 3 languages? Now you just have how many persons here? Maybe on a 20 people.
Yeah.
Within this number, you have people speaking 2 or 3 languages. How many of you speak 4 languages? Now, some of the most powerful countries in the world, if you ask this question, you have no hand raised up. How do you learn the language? It requires intelligence. And so, I'm not saying this to make you feel good, but I've observed that there are good brains in this country. You got people with high-level IQ, great education from here or from other countries. The difference is in the attitude, the way they perceive themselves. You have great musicians in this country, great artists, a lot of great people here. It's just about how you perceive yourself. Your nation is not going to be great if you think of yourself any less than the other person beneath you. Imagine my background if I have thought any less of myself. I could not have gone to school again at 22 years old. Where I'm from, there are people who got nothing whatsoever. But they believe in themselves that they're going to succeed, and they work hard towards that. Take another practical example of people who try to cross the Atlantic Ocean to get to Europe. I see a lot of people standing on the street begging for money sometimes. When I came, I used to give out money a lot until I got used to the system and I stopped that. And I only stopped that because a friend of mine told me something that shocked me. He said, Charles, these people have documents. They can go anywhere in Europe to work. You and I cannot. And then I said, the thing is true. Because even if you come from Africa or Asia or whatever, if you don't have the right to work in Europe, you cannot work. It is going to be really, really hard for you. But people who have nothing, they struggle hard, and when they arrive, they try to make good out of nothing. This is not to promote immigration, but this is just to give you a comparative analysis of how I perceive the things. So the attitude of people have to change. You great, you smart, and I know that, and I don't play with words oftentimes. I like to be more direct, but it's just about how you see yourself than the next person from another nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.